Good afternoon. I'm gonna pull in. I hope he's ready because he just popped up. You ready, brother?
I'm here. How y'all doing?
All right, man. How you doing?
All
right.
Playing it all.
This is gonna be fun, man. I'm Kris Gardner, owner of the Houston Roundball Review, and joining me, welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Houston Rockets. Early in the afternoon because I got to fit in with my colleagues because they're busy too. You know, Sarge, are you with the Panthers?
Well, the Panthers.
PV.
Oh no. They're playing in they're in Alabama this weekend, and I wouldn't have been able to make it there and make it back to what I need to be to do for tomorrow. So no, not this week. Next Saturday I will be at the State Fair Classic though, covering Prairie View versus Grambling State. So PV,
All right. And since I was rude and jumped right into my man right there, but who are you, sir? You get to do it in the middle in a second. Who are you, sir?
Me?
Yes, sir. Who are you? What's your name, sir?
I'm Slim Shady. Yes, I'm the real Shady. Oh, wait, hold on. I forgot where we're at. Hey, what's going on, y'all? Big Sarge here, aka Brian Barefield. Or should I say Brian Barefield, aka Big Sarge? I always want to know how that works, especially since I got Sarge tatted on me last week when I was in Denver. But Brian Barefield, aka Big Sarge, covered the Houston Rockets for Rockets Wire USA Today. Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast. That's sports with a Z at the end.
In the middle is the youngster of the group, Coty Davis. I'm gonna throw it out there. You may not want it out there, but so what? It's my show. A huge Michael Jackson fan. So we might talk about that at some point. Make fun of him.
Never ashamed. Never ashamed. Never ashamed.
Surprised he doesn't have a tattoo.
I'm just playing. I think that's what my wife and my mom be like, you know what? You're going to therapy.
But how are you, man? How are you?
Doing good. For those of you guys who do not know me, Coty M. Davis, who covered the Houston Rockets for Sports Illustrated /Fan Nation. You can find all of my work at Inside the Rockets. Do a lot here in the city of Houston, also covering the Houston Texans. Very important game on tomorrow. And boy, if they do not win that game, then I'm going to have to apologize to this guy over here about a couple of predictions that I made that was wrong. But we ain't here to talk Texas. We're here to talk Rockets.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to talk Rockets in a second. But hold up. You picked them to beat the Bears?
Honestly, I got it as another tie, to be honest with you, because both of these teams they mirror each other so much to the point where I would not be surprised if we walk away, one, saying, what in the world did we just watch? And two, and most important, if the game ends 3-3 tie and the Houston Texans are 0-1-2. Who knows at this point?
Wait a minute now, because hold on. I too cover the Houston Texans for
right
USA Today, and I also picked the Houston Texans to defeat the Chicago Bears this week.
It's a must win. It's a must win.
That's
definitely
a must win.
And once again, I know it's a Rocket show, but if they don't win on tomorrow, especially the play of Davis Mills, it's really going to look bad for the rest of the season.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's talk Rockets. I hope some Rocket fans will be chiming in because it's earlier than usual. Usually do it late night about 9:30, and folks probably before they go clubbing hop on and change their comments, type in the comments. Well, let's get into it, fellas. Media Day is Monday. Y'all, we'll all be there, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Let's get into it. Let's just right off the top. Sarge, how many wins for the Rockets this season?
I have them winning at least 37 games. And the reason why I have them winning 37 games is, I know that they finished last season. They only won 20 last season, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
One of the worst teams in the league, but it's only going to take 37 wins for them to get into the play-in. And I feel like that with the addition of Jabari Smith and Tari Eason to the team, that they could overcome some of the things that they lacked in defensive deficiencies last year with Christian Wood, and that is going to help them to, increase. And I know that 17 games sounds like a lot, but if you go back and you look at some of the games in which they lost, they barely lost these things. They could be, and I know we talked about the Texans a little bit earlier, but they kind of mirror each other with the in the game for so long, and then right when they get into those, there's always one quarter where all of a sudden everything just comes apart. And that's how it was with the Houston Rockets on last season. It was that there was sometimes that their inexperience and their lack of defensive presence caused them to lose games. Well, now when you have defenders on the backside who want to play defense, when you look at Jabari Smith and Tari Eason, those are two guys who want to play defense. I don't think Christian Wood bought into playing defense on last year. And those two defensive presence, and you throw in Alperen Şengün, because the one thing about Alpi is he feeds off of everybody else. He has a certain skill set, but once everybody else gets going, Alpi is like, I got to get going too. So when he sees the commitment that Jabari and Tari will make on the defensive end of the ball, then guess what? Now you got Alpi buying in. Not only that, you have Josh Christopher, who's a good defender. Not only that, you have oh my God, why is his name drawn? Why am I drawing a blank? Jayshawn Tate, who's also he's a good defender. He's just undersized. So I have him winning 37 games this year.
Cody, how about you? How many?
I actually have them winning 34 games. I got them falling right outside of the play-in tournament. The only reason why I'm not going to say they're going to be a play-in tournament team this year, as we saw last year with Alperen Şengün, with Jalen Green, with Josh Christopher, you have to give your rookies time to go through their learning curve. And I do believe that, the learning curve that Jabari Smith Jr. and Tari Eason and even Tata Washington are going to go through is going to be part of the reason why we see the Rockets lose a couple games early on in the season, where you say, wow, if they had experience, maybe they would have closed out the game. More so, I think they're going to open up the season similar to the way they closed out last season following the All-Star break, because I think they won only about 4 or 5 games during the All-Star break, but they played I think 20, and out of those 20 games that they played, a handful of those games they would have won, as Sarge just alluded to, had they had more experience. And the first month or two is going to be a learning curve, but once those two guys really get things going, now you're looking at a situation where the Rockets are definitely going to be able to put things together. And like Sarge said, the Texans and the Rockets, they mirror each other a lot. And the one thing I would say, when I take a look at the Houston Rockets and having more faith in their rebuild, they already have their franchise cornerstone in Jalen Green. And I know he's going to come into the season building off how he ended last year. And I just think that this team is going to be so much better. Steven Silas finally have some stability. He finally have some normalcy. And, you also got to take a look at other teams in the Western Conference, like the Utah Jazz, the San Antonio Spurs, who have hit the reset button on their franchise. That's also going to add into the Houston Rockets win total as well. So you put all that into consideration, I do believe they'd be sitting at 11 at number 34, and that is a big improvement from winning 20 games last year and 17 games the year before.
All right. Thanks to Ray and Peyton for comments. I got them around 29 to 30. 37 and 34 is high. The talent's better for sure. They got more talent than last year. I like Jabari Smith a whole lot. I like Tari Eason a whole lot. I just think there's still too many other teams in the West that are better than the Rockets. More talent, more experience, and they'll be better. Okay, let me ask you that. Say it like this: if they don't improve by as much as you guys say, should Steven Silas be in trouble?
You want to go first, Cody? Go ahead.
I'm going to say no. I think if anything, Silas have 2 years left on his contract. He signed a 4-year deal, so this is going into his third season.
I think the option on it, but yeah.
Okay, so there's the option. So I'm going to say no. They have to let Silas finish out his contract at least. Because, and look, we can go, we already know the story. He came here, it was supposed to be championship, him and Russ. We already know how that worked out the first year. But last year, I look at it as that was the first true year of Coach Steven Silas's career. Okay. And you paired him with a rookie in Jalen Green. Matter of fact, you paired him with a very successful and a very promising 2021 draft class. Rookies, very promising. Now, when you go into this quote unquote second year, is what I like to call it, you have to give it at least another year, which would be next year, because even though the Rockets should be better, once again, if we're looking at this on paper, your best player is Jalen Green. Arguably going into training camp, your second best player is Jabari Smith Jr. He's a rookie. Number 3, like I mentioned, you have to give him time to go through his learning curve. So there still should be some leeway with Stephen Silas, because at the end of the day, we are still not expecting this team to be a playoff caliber team. I don't think nobody's going out there and putting heavy expectations on him. So I would say, even if the Rockets, let's say, if they finish the year somewhere in the ballpark of like 25 wins, I would say Silas will deserve at least one more year, because at the end of the day, even though you'll be entering your 4th year with Stephen Silas, you still only had just 2 real seasons to say, okay, this is how I'm evaluating him as a head coach. And like I mentioned all the time, and I know you guys heard me say this in a press conference as well, you know, this is a guy that has helped build the foundation for Luka, helped build the foundation for Kimball, Baron Davis, Steph, and even LeBron James, which, I mean, you know, LeBron James on a whole different type of universe. But at the end of the day, when you go back and you take a listen to what all those guys have to say, they talk about how much working with Stephen Silas, very young in their career, helped build the foundation. And that's what he's doing with the Rockets as of right now.
Sarge, what do you say? What would it take, if anything, to get Silas fired this season?
Ime Udoka type situation.
So nothing on the court.
No, definitely nothing on the court that's going to get this man fired. Only because we you know, like Cody alluded to, he's worked with a lot of deficiencies. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of things he's had to work through, and it's one thing for fans to realize that. It's one thing for the media to realize that, but his colleagues as well. When you talk to some of these NBA coaches during their press conference or even behind the scenes, they'll tell you that, Stephen Silas came into a very rough situation that he wasn't expecting to come into when he got hired. Right. You know, he got hired, and then the next thing you know, everything went haywire for the next 2 years. And I'm not even talking about with the players as far as James Harden, Russell Westbrook, John Wall. I'm not even talking about those situations, but then you also have to go through that he's dealing with the COVID type situations as well. You get ready, and then you move past that, and now it's almost like he's a father to this brand new group of players that he has. Like, a lot of those players couldn't drink when they got drafted, right? And so some of them still can't drink. Right. Yeah. So now he has to start all over again and not only be a coach, but a father figure to his younger players. And then, I mean, nobody else will say it, but I'll say it. When Christian Wood was here, he had to be a father on that side to say, hey, man, you're doing some immature type things. And you have to calm down. You have to calm down. The circumstances has put you in the limelight. Christian Wood was never brought to Houston to be a first option. He was brought to be a third option, or maybe even a fourth option with the Houston Rockets. And so he was an add-on. He wasn't the main feature. It's the equivalent to buying an iPhone. Like, you buy the iPhone for the iPhone, and then you buy the case as an accessory, or, the screen protector as an accessory. Christian Wood was an accessory, supposed to be an accessory that jumped into being the iPhone. And so that, you take all of that into consideration and what he had to deal with. And now, like Cody said, you're finally putting him, into a situation where now this is yours, Stephen. You got your draft classes. We got your 2 draft classes. You have stability. You know who your players are going to be. Now you can set your lineup to how you want it to be. Now you can go into training camp knowing that these players that are coming out of training camp with you are your players. So I don't see, even if he has another losing season, even if they don't reach, the play-in, even if they only increase by 5 to 7 wins, even if that happens, I think that he has warranted and deserves another opportunity to come back, because you can see how franchises look at what we seen when it came to the Minnesota Timberwolves franchise. They went from one place to another. They gave Anthony Edwards the time to develop, and he took a major leap from his rookie year to his second year. You look at teams like the Memphis Grizzlies. Ja Morant took a tremendous leap from his first season to his second season. What we seen from Jalen Green at the end of the season, and I'll tell you where the shift actually changed. And we talked about this before. During the after the All-Star break, people are saying something changed in Jalen, and it did. Mm-hmm. March 1st against the Clippers in the fourth quarter, Jalen Green recognized that the Clippers weren't going to allow him to get to the basket anymore. His outside shot really wasn't working, so he just started working on his mid-range. Mm-hmm. From March 1st to the end of the season, when he incorporated that mid-range jump shot into his game elevated. Now, here's the funny part. When you go back and you listen to Coach Silas leading up to that point, he's saying Jalen is learning every day. Jalen is learning every day. There's different types of things we're teaching Jalen. There's different types of things we're showing Jalen. And so you need that type, like Coty said earlier, you need that type of coach or that type of coach or that type of person who has been around players who listen to him, like Luka, like LeBron, like Steph, and others. Now he has that superstar type player in Jalen Green, and so you give him all the opportunity in the world.
Question for you guys from Justin Singleton. Do you see Stephen Coach Silas being here when the Rockets make the playoffs?
Yeah, that's next season. So, yeah, I do.
Ask an answer there, Justin. There you go, right, Coty.
I'm gonna say yes. And to piggyback off of Sarge and what I said earlier, one of my favorite moments was Stephen Silas talking about laying the foundation for all those guys. It's not like he has a different way of building for every single guy. What he has done is kept notes throughout the years on what helped LeBron, what helped Steph, what helped Luka, what helped Baron Davis, what helped Kemba Walker. And one of my favorite moments last year was when he revealed that he put together this blueprint and he showed that blueprint to Jalen Green. That was around that same time that you are talking about, Sarge, because it was like sometimes, after the All-Star break. And when I heard that, man, I was just like, they have to keep Stephen Silas around, because the one thing I don't want the Rockets to do, and it's part of the reason why I'm also hoping that they do keep Stephen Silas around, you don't want your organization to go through a forever rebuild, because the Memphis Grizzlies did it right. Yes, they had to go through a couple up and downs or whatever, but they did what they had to do with the coach that they had at that time. They wasn't like the Sacramento Kings, who are still in the rebuild going on, 20 years? They haven't made the playoffs since 2006. The Minnesota Timberwolves finally realized in order for our young guys to really pay off, we got to keep them with at least one, no more than two coaches or whatever the case might be. But prior to that, after Kevin Garnett left, it took them 15 years to make the playoffs. So that's why I'm saying, like, with the whole Stephen Silas stuff, it's unfortunate because, like we all know, he was brought into Houston to do a whole different job. Now it turned into something completely different. But I'm looking at this as this is only year 2 of Stephen Silas having a somewhat of a fair chance.
And this is the thing too, if you don't mind me piggybacking off what Coty said. Here's another thing too. Not only is Stephen Silas inheriting a group of young, talented players, he's getting a group who wants to work. Like these guys are different. Like these guys are, a couple of quick things. Tari Eason had to make an appearance at this grand opening of the shoe store here in Houston. I want to say about a month or 2 ago. And he had to be there by 11 o'clock. The night prior, he was in Ohio at the University of Cincinnati, working out to like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning to go catch a flight at like 6:30 to get here in time. So when I was talking to him, I was like, you was really in that gym last night, right? He's like, yeah. He said basically said the work doesn't stop. I live down the street from the Toyota Center. When I'm leaving on my way to go to NRG in the morning, because the Texans practice at 8 o'clock. So I leave out of here around about 7 o'clock in the morning, right? Mm-hmm. When I'm passing by the Toyota Center, and you all know where we go in, that media entrance right there to get to the practice court. Yep. There's cars right there. Yep. And I was like, these ain't regular cars, and these aren't on the other side of the house employee cars. These are the employees, like the basketball players. And you see players walking up, and this is 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning, and these guys are coming. So you have that with Tari Eason, you have that with Jalen, you have that with Josh Christopher. So he's inheriting a bunch of guys who want to win and who's not afraid to put in the work. That's where, if you can get a bunch of young guys who love to work, that is your blueprint and your foundation to be successful. These guys, Jalen knows who he is. Jalen Green knows it because Jalen is a rock star. Let's just go ahead and put it out there. In his second year, Jalen is a rock star who thinks like he was drafted 32nd in the NBA draft, who still has a grudge because in his mind, he went third.
No, he went second.
He went second.
He went second.
Second
behind Cade.
Yeah. I'm thinking, look, I still got Derek Stingley on my mind, but he went second in the draft. In his mind, he should have went first. Mm-hmm. So now he has a grudge against everybody else who didn't pick him first. And I was like, Jalen, there's only one team that didn't pick you first. Like, I don't care. I'm taking it out on the rest of the league.
What if, and I'm not expecting it, and none of y'all are either, what if the wheels fall off and you only win 15 games, 19 games? In other words, not as many as 20 last season. Would that be enough to warrant Stephen Silas being fired?
The only way that I feel like that would happen is that they would have to suffer a significant injury. And with that being said, the only way they win that amount of games is if they suffer a significant injury. And if they suffer a significant injury to one of those players, one of the big three or one of the big four that they have, then that buys Coach Silas another year.
Okay. I'm going to put this comment up because I think I know where you guys are on it because I've said it as well. Coach Silas has said already this summer that he is going to hold players more accountable this season, especially the guys who've been in the system going on now 3 years. So the soft label, I think, is outdated because he had to be with the first two. The team was so young and so new and all the 30 different lineups. But this season, I expect him to be more of a hard ass and hold guys accountable. You guys agree?
Yeah, 100%. And look, that like I hate when I don't want to say to you, I use the word. I just dislike when people want to put that label of Stephen Silas being quote unquote soft. But I mean, once again, you're looking at a guy who knows what it takes for players to reach their potential or come close to their potential on the NBA level. And you have to let these players go through these learning curves. And look, Stephen Silas said that during his post media availability, he said it during the draft. And I believe he said the same thing. Matter of fact, he did say the same thing when he made a brief appearance at the Texans training camp about a month ago. He said that at the end of the day, you have to keep in mind that he was dealing with a lot of young guys, but at the same time, this year, a lot of the players that he has are returning players for the very first time. Now they know what to do on the court, what not to do. Now they know what are the expectations Stephen Silas has for them going into this year. And that's why I know we're going to see a better coaching job from Stephen Silas for this upcoming year. And by the way, Silas, the soft turn label, that might be a little bit overvalued because there was several times throughout last season where we was told, yeah, Silas are really getting on them boys.
Yeah. Sarge, what do you say?
I say this. Some people perceive him as being soft because he doesn't come to the press conferences and go off, or he doesn't have like that demeanor of, come there and I'm going to be, he ain't Chuck Daly, God rest his soul. Wait, Chuck Daly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
God rest his soul. I was like, I don't want to put that on the man if he's not. He doesn't have any of the Van Gundy's type attitudes. He comes and what you see is a guy who is going to get in front of the camera and still be poised and still be cool, calm, and collected. But behind the scenes, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm telling you something that I know, not something that I heard. Stephen Silas be in they butts. Stephen Silas be on there. I put it like, you remember the New Year's Day game where Christian Wood came late, didn't start. Kevin Porter Jr. left at halftime. You don't know what happened the very next day when they all got together? Stephen Silas ripped them a new one. Yep. Both of them. In front of the team, too. Ripped both of them. But he really ripped Christian because he says, you are the veteran. You are the leader of this team. So people don't see that you know, when he comes to the press conferences or when he's on the sidelines. You all don't see that, but behind the scenes, yeah, he's in their butts. Second of all, it's a good cop, bad cop thing when it comes to the Houston Rockets, because Stephen Silas is only hard on them to a certain point. And the reason why he is because there has to be somebody that these players can run to after John Lucas getting their ass.
Amen. Amen. Yep.
John Lucas is, because John Lucas, he don't change. He is who he is. And if you mess up, and he has no problem calling you out on it. He don't care how old you are.
In front of everybody.
Yes. Once you step on that court, you're his. You belong to him. And he's going to tell you, but the players love it. The players love it. We've seen how many times that, let me take it back to this. When Jalen Green was going through that slump where his shooting was horrible, who was he working out with the most? John Lucas. Who was helping him out the most? John Lucas. Who was staying on him and not coddling him, but also telling him, we've got to improve. I'm going to improve you because you are a reflection of me. So when you label Stephen Silas as soft, or when you think that he's soft, he's not soft, but he also has to be that other side where the guys can come in and see another side of just not seeing John Lucas, because John Lucas don't change, y'all. If you ever meet John Lucas in person, he is the same person all the way through. Yeah. I was like, man, hey, John, I don't want to fight today, man. I'm good. Yeah.
And I was at this, and we'll get back to another topic, which I think Sarge and Coty will find hilarious. Stephen Silas is his father's son. If you know Paul Silas, you would never, ever question Paul Silas's toughness. Okay? So trust me when I say that. All right.
Somebody out the locker room. Somebody.
Yes. Oh, man. There's stories about Paul Silas. Man, we got to go off the air for that kind of stuff, man. But Sarge, this is for you. This is for you. Justin, it seems like the Rockets are following UH's blueprint, trying to establish a culture. I'm tossing that to you, Sarge, because I know you got stuff to say, and I'm going to just wait. Go ahead, man.
So here's the problem, right? So I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue with U of H basketball. I definitely have an issue with U of H football. Well, that's another story for another time. We'll talk about that later. But what Justin just said, I totally agree with. Kelvin Sampson is by far one of the best college coaches there is today. He doesn't get the accolades that he should. He doesn't have the notoriety that he should, that he would have if he was at a Carolina or a Kentucky or a Kansas or even at a UCLA. This guy can coach. And not only can he coach, he's a person who the players want to play for. And so, yes, I like that. That's a great comparison because you're right. They're mirroring what University of Houston is doing and what Kelvin Sampson has done with that program. And if you look at it, Kelvin Sampson has to be a person that mold young men. Stephen Silas is coaching young men who would be playing for Kelvin Sampson.
You would have some players older than Rockets. Yes.
Right? So yes, Justin, that is great. But I used up all my University of Houston,
Well done, brother, because you could have gone much harder than you did. But thank you for that. Coty, what are your thoughts on that statement from Justin?
I agree, and like Sarge said, Kelvin Sampson is one of the best college basketball coaches around today, and I 100% agree. Kris, as you know, I had an opportunity to be around Sampson for one season, and what I see in Kelvin Sampson is a coach that is laying the groundwork for these players, not just at the University of Houston, but you see Quentin Grimes. Remember, I was there that season when the UH had Quentin Grimes, and what I saw, everything that he's using in New York right now, part of the reason why they don't want to include him in that trade package that would have landed them Donovan Mitchell. All that is just the groundwork that Kelvin Sampson helped to establish. And that's why I keep telling people, just give it time, because at the end of the day, what you're seeing out of Kevin Porter Jr., matter of fact, Kevin Porter Jr. is the best example of seeing how much Steven Silas's groundwork can actually help a young player, because when KPJ got here, he was like all over the place, and unfortunately on both on and off the court. Now just having January will mark 2 years since that trade, so a year and a half under Steven Silas, you have seen so much growth both on and off the court in Kevin Porter Jr. And that is the same thing that you are seeing at the University of Houston with Calvin Sampson and the players that he is actually helping as well. So I will 100% agree with that. And then you also got to keep in mind, as both of you guys just say, if they wasn't playing for the Rockets, they might have been down the street playing in the Fertitta Center, i.e. Jalen Green.
So, right. and let me add, because we got questions for you guys to answer. Rafael Stone spends time over at UH. I've seen him over there talking to Kelvin. So he's getting part of this. No, he sees the culture. So he wants the Rockets to follow the UH culture. So he's trying to establish that, and that's part of what he wants to do there. So it all ties together. Folks don't realize Kelvin, Coach Silas, Rafael, a lot of John Lucas, these guys go back a long way together.
Yes.
So they do share a lot of information, both sides. Question for you. Go ahead.
Well, hold on, Kris. Let me interject something real quick too. And if you look at the way that both franchises mirror each other, is Kelvin Sampson has a great group of assistants. He has a great group of assistants, and those assistants follow whatever he wants to, whatever blueprint he sets from the coaching aspect, they follow that, and the players know that. So when these coaches go to the players, they know that, okay, we know that Coach Sampson already agrees with this.
Mm-hmm.
Best thing that the Houston Rockets could have done is, and I'm sorry, his name slips my mind, and maybe you all can, the G League coach from last season that has joined the staff this year.
My dude, Al Defada.
Yes. Bringing him on. Hiring him was one of the best things that the Houston Rockets could do. That young man is very sharp at the game of basketball, and we've seen it on the G League level. So now Coach Silas not only has somebody that the players can buy into, because some of them have played for him at the G League level, but they also seen what he has done by being successful down there. And so now he's put together a staff. The Rockets have put together a staff that mirrors Coach Silas's mindset the same way the University of Houston did with Kelvin Sampson.
Yeah, I think the Rockets have finally let Coach Silas bring in his staff. Mahmoud, Lionel Hollins, keeping Luke. I think we're going to see changes. Baptiste as well. We're going to see more of a different style of play and more physical style of play with the Rockets this season. Question for you guys from WK. Could y'all see Steven Silas coaching the Rockets to a championship, or is he a Mark Jackson type? And the next coach, be the Steve Kerr of the Rockets.
Sarge, I'm gonna let you go with that, because
no, you go ahead.
I take that like kind of personal, and you guys know why. Let's just say I'm hoping that's the case, and I hope that it's not another Mark Jackson situation. And the Mark Jackson situation, I still don't like it. I mean, I get it. No disrespect to Steve Kerr. Yeah, he went in there and made like a couple tweaks here and there, but I'm gonna just pass that on to Sarge for right now.
What you got, Sarge?
Wow, I never thought that I'd see you.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. Yeah, okay. Right?
Yeah, you don't have anything to say?
No, I got stuff to say, but I just
your own platform, not mine. Okay.
Yeah. And then the fact that this might happen with two, what? Look, I put it like this: there's a reason why I was happy as hell by that iconic picture of Lovie Smith, Steven Silas, and Dusty Baker, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
Well, Kelvin Sampson and
Kelvin Sampson too
was in that picture, and the coach from the head football coach from Texas Southern,
Clarence McKinney
was in that picture. It was in a picture as well. So let me say this. Let me answer the question. I'm going to say no. And the reason why I'm going to say no is because I don't know what the long-term plan is for him. And I don't know what this team is going to look like in 3 years. Of course, I would love to see Coach Silas. I don't know how long after 3 years if they don't make, you know what? Let me say it like this. It depends on the progression of wins and where they go in the playoffs. Because winning a championship is hard.
Yes.
Like when we say, can this team win a championship? There is a lot that entails going into getting to a championship. You have to have the right pieces in the right place at the right time. Luck has to be on your side as far as winning some of these games by luck, having some of these teams have some misfortunes. And, like we seen, let me jump over here for a second. Let me side note. I mean, some of those championships that the Golden State Warriors had was due to the fact that they got lucky that the other teams didn't have their star players.
Yep.
Right?
That's part of it. Yeah.
Toronto won their championship. They got lucky to win their championship because Kevin Durant couldn't go for the Warriors. So things like that have to happen as well. No matter what type of team you put together, there's other factors. So sometimes if those other factors don't fall into place, the casualty becomes the head coach. And so that's how I look at it. And that's why I have to say no right now, but I hope that we can revisit this conversation again in maybe 2 years.
And let me just say this before moving on. And I 100% agree with Sarge. And the one thing that came to my mind was Quinn Snyder. I mean, like look what he did for Utah over the last 8 to 9 years. Got them near to a championship level. I would never really consider them as real contenders, but at the same time, but at the same time, at least for that organization, that franchise, they looked at themselves as, you know what, we could compete for a championship, and every single year they fell short. And now, as you saw this year, they hit the reset button, and the very first move they did was to depart from Quinn Snyder. So, I know the number one thing of course, everybody's mind is, will this be on Mark Jackson? He build the team, get fired, you bring in Steve Kerr or somebody like a Steve Kerr, and they get all the credit for building this dynasty or whatever the case might be. But at the same time, that is one out of a million, I would like to say, so I hope it happens, but I think realistically, I don't think it will, unfortunately.
Now, look, and I know that we're not talking about, Mark Jackson per se and the Golden State Warriors, but Coty, it seems like to me, you're trying to give Mark Jackson a whole lot of credit he don't deserve.
No. It's not that I'm giving Mark Jackson credit that he don't deserve. All I'm saying is he laid the foundation. And when they replaced him with Steve Kerr, like I said, the only thing that I saw Steve Kerr do was just go in there and just change up a couple things with the lineup. And I think the biggest one he did was bring bring Iguodala off the bench. And next thing you know,
he inserted Draymond because Mark Jackson didn't want to play Draymond. He was stuck in his mind to play David Lee.
First of all, this is a Rockets podcast, so we're not about to turn this into a Golden State Warriors debate podcast. But second and most importantly, you also got to keep in mind, Green was still developing at the time. And when you go back and you take a look at that last season when he was playing with Mark Jackson, we finally saw Green turning the corner. He's not going to turn the corner and all of a sudden be inserted into the starting lineup. And you guys know there's steps to this. So once again, just like the Golden State Warriors, Draymond Green is the perfect example of you're right there, the coach is gone, and then boom, all of a sudden you're over the top when I believe that they could have experienced that same level of success with Mark Jackson. That's why I say Steve Kerr came in and made a couple of adjustments. It wasn't a lot, but a couple of adjustments, and then boom, next thing you know, they're a dynasty.
Steve Kerr is a better coach than Mark Jackson, hands down. He has the pedigree. Hold on. He has the pedigree of playing with arguably one of the best players to ever touch a basketball court in Michael Jordan, playing with him, practicing with him, winning games with him. Then he goes to San Antonio and plays under one of the best coaches, the greatest coach of all time. And then he takes all of that knowledge and he puts it into if Golden State would have stuck with Mark Jackson, they would never been where they are today. You know why? Because Steve Kerr isn't hard-headed, but Mark Jackson is. And you can't be hard-headed and try to lead this group of players. There's no possible way. And I hear people like, Mark Jackson laid the foundation. No, the upper management led the organization because they went out and got Steph, Clay, Draymond, Iguodala, they put that system together. They did. Where all they were missing was a coach. And when they got rid of him, they had a coach.
No,
All I'm gonna say.
No, let's go Rockets. No, hold on. We can go back to the Rockets. I want to get back to. We can do this off the air. Talk
you
about
should
that.
have us on it because you know how we are.
Oh, that's why I wanted it. Yeah.
I just want to ask one question.
No.
You know what? You're right. I don't want a Malika Andrews to say. So you're right. Go ahead, Kris. I apologize. This is your show.
Stop it.
Stu, KPJ, what are y'all's expectations for him this season?
I got Kevin Porter Jr. possibly in the running for most improved player of the year. Like I said earlier, man, this is a guy who has developed tremendously under Stephen Silas. And to go back to what Sarge said, even though we argue a lot, we do agree on a lot of stuff as well. Yeah. But when you go back and you take a look at the progression that we saw out of the Houston Rockets during the second half of last season, yes, a lot of people want to talk about Jalen Green averaging damn near 25 points. Everybody want to talk about Alperen Şengün starting to come into his own, but when you go back and you take a look at Kevin Porter Jr.'s play during the second half of last season, he played a big role into that. And, Kevin Porter Jr., man, this is a guy, and Sarge, you saw me a couple weeks ago, we had an opportunity to go to the Rockets, the community event they did honoring the first responders for 9/11. Mm-hmm. And, we were sitting there talking to Kevin Porter Jr. We was asking him, how was his offseason. And Kevin Porter Jr. said something that stuck with me. He said, man, I've been in the league for like 3 years. I think he's going into his 4th year now. But he said this is the first real offseason that he has had. And he is finally ready to blossom into the player that he knows that he could be. And not only that, you also got to take it to consideration. Unfortunately, there was some stuff going on in Cleveland. When he got here in Houston, this is the first full year that he actually has some stability to get into a system, learn the foundation, and actually have faith and trust in the organization. Even when he had that one blender where he messed up and, left out and walked off the team on the court, what did he do the day after his suspension? Hit a game-winning shot. And who was the first person running into his arms? Stephen Silas. This is what this young man, and John Lucas as well. This is what this young man needed. And I do believe that we're going to see arguably the best version, matter of fact, the best version of Kevin Porter Jr. this year, because a lot of people just think, when you are a professional athlete, all you need to do is go out on the field, the diamond, the football field, or on the basketball court, the hockey, the whatever they call the hockey place. They just think the only thing you need to do is put the ball in the basket, throw a pass, or whatever the case might be. But at the same time, a lot of people don't understand what goes on behind the scene, especially the mental aspect of things. And for the very first time, I'm looking at Kevin Porter Jr. I see a guy that's full of confidence, and I also see a guy that's also at peace as well. And I think that is part of the reason why I think he's going to be in the running for most improved player of the year. And I also believe that he's going to be arguably the biggest X factor in terms of whether or not the Rockets can take that leap from the bottom of the Western Conference to scratching the surface. And in some people's eyes, making a play in tournament.
Sarge?
So since Kris wouldn't let you respond to Mark Jackson all the time and take up all the points on Kevin Porter Jr., right?
You're right, because I had a rebuttal about the Mark Jackson, but you know what?
That's another show.
Listen, everything that Coty said was spot on. I don't have a lot to add to that. What he said is spot on, and I will just add. Coty touched on it just a tad bit, and I'll add to that just from the mental health aspect of it. Kevin Porter Jr. has been through a lot in his life, a lot. And so when he was in Cleveland, he had no stability. When he got here and the way that the franchise opened up their arms to him, you all remember last year when we were at Media Day, he said, this franchise saved my life. Mm-hmm. He said, coming to Houston saved my life. And having that being said by him and seeing now when you look at his, you look at his IG and you see him working out and you see him with being at certain things. We've seen him do, I've seen him even do commercials with, riding in the car, talking to these young ladies, asking him weird type of questions, but he's answering it, but he looks happy.
He's at peace.
And for a person to be at peace like that, and just like what Coty said, the second half of the season after the All-Star break, you could tell that he was at peace. He's also he gets labeled as things that he is not. A lot of people try to label him as selfish, a ball hog, and this, that, and other. Nothing excites him more than to see his teammates go off, especially Jalen, because he loves Jalen. Like, they're like brothers for real, for real. And he loves to see that, because if Jalen is doing good, that means he's doing his job as well. In that second half of the season, I want people to go back and I want people to look at the shot attempts from Kevin Porter Jr., look at his assists, and then look at his turnovers. He was a huge part of Jalen Green's development in that second half of the season, but not only Jalen Green's development, his development as well.
Do you guys think Scoot and the Rockets will reach an agreement with a contract now or in the summer?
So I feel like it's going to go into one of those situations that we're looking at when it comes to in other sports, like a Lamar Jackson with the Baltimore Ravens or Aaron Judge with the New York Yankees. It may be one of those play to prove it type things. The Rockets may not have seen enough. They seen the second half of the season, and I get it from a business aspect, from an organizational standpoint. They have to say, okay, Kevin, we like you. We like what you've done. We don't know if we're ready to commit long-term and give you this money based off of this short sample size. Yes, we have all the confidence in the world that you can take your game up another level, but we kind of got to see it first, Kevin, before we, put all of this money into it. And so I get it. And from Kevin Porter Jr.'s side, I could also see him saying, yo, I know what I'm going to do. I know where my head is at. I know where I'm going to be. I know that I deserve it. So I can see it playing out from both sides, but I see this as a play, a year where he has to play for a contract extension.
Cody?
I 100% agree with Sarge, but if I'm the Rockets, I might roll my dice and give him the extension now. Because if he continues to develop in the way that he showcased during the second half of last season, and even when he first got here, when he had that random game against the Bucks where he had like 50 and 15 or something like that. Like, if I'm the Rockets, I'm rolling my dice and I'm giving him the type of deal to where, it's great of course, it's going to be phenomenal if you reach the expectation, if you become an all-star, whatever the case might be. But if things don't work out, you will have a more affordable contract to move him, because when I'm afraid that this might happen. You let it be a play to prove it. He well exceeds expectations. Now you got to overpay him a little bit. And if you overpay him, at some point, you got to keep in mind where you got to put 200 and something, well, probably 300 at that time on the side for Jalen Green. So what about all the other young guys that you're going to have? Like, in order for the Rockets to continue to keep this young core together and for them to continue building, at some point, the financial side is going to have to play into effect. And if they could get him on a real affordable, I think the one thing that comes to my mind is what the San Antonio Spurs did when they rolled their dice a few years ago on DeJounte Murray. I mean, this was a guy that was coming off, I believe, back-to-back knee injuries. They gave him like a 4-year deal worth $64 million. They had him in the ballpark of like 15 to like 7 million per season. And, there was, of course, incentives that was involved to where if he meets certain goals, he got more into that year. Well, look what happened. He lived up to the expectation. And, even though he's not a part of their plans anymore, he was still on an affordable deal where you could trade him off and get a lot of assets for him. Of course, they made that deal this offseason to the Atlanta Hawks. And I feel that might be the best case scenario for Kevin Porter Jr. Because like I said, you don't want for him to exceed expectations. And of course, I think next year he's going to be a restricted free agent, correct?
Right.
Now you also gambling does the Indiana Pacers try to overpay him? Do we match this? And I just think they just roll their dice now and just push that idea of giving him a quote unquote max at least 3, possibly 4 years down the line.
And the conundrum that they face is you look at it as it's the exact same thing that they went through with Christian Wood on last season. It's like, do we overpay Christian Wood? And Christian Wood played great. I mean, Christian Wood led the team in points and rebounds in last season. And they got to a point where they're just like, well, no, we're not going to pay him. Will they get to that point when it comes to Kevin Porter Jr.? No matter how much they like him, are they going to pay him like that?
Well, see, that's the question I was going to want to ask you guys. because C. Wood, he stopped doing it after a while, but initially he thought he was a max player. Okay, we have not heard Kevin say he feels he's a max player, but if he gets to that point, because Coty, your numbers, it makes sense the Rockets do something now, but what if Scoot says, I'm betting on myself this summer. I think I'm a max player. I'm going to wait till the summer and see if I get other offers from other teams, and then we'll see what happens in the summer.
You want to go ahead first, Coty?
No, you go ahead.
So I was going to say this. You also got to look at it from the flip side. And if I'm Kevin Porter Jr.'s agent, I'm going in and I'm telling them this. Because, of course, I have my client's best interest.
Hopefully, yes.
Yes, I have his best interest. I want him to get paid. And the first thing I'm going to tell the Rockets is, hey, Kevin Porter is a shooting guard. You all turn him into a point guard. So you got to give him time to develop. And once he develops into what you want him to be, then he may not even be here. So this is where you all have to put up the money. You know, you got to put your money where your mouth is. Nobody said that when we brought him here, we brought him here as a shooting guard. We never brought him here as a point guard. You all wanted him to be a point guard. Now, you have an example in a player who went from shooting guard, Russell Westbrook, to point guard and became phenomenal, who became a walking triple-double. And he got the max. And so we get Kevin Porter has only played, Coty, if I'm not mistaken, the games that he played last year, the middle of the season finally equated to him playing a full
82 games. Yes, sir.
So, like, give my client a little bit more time to develop at this point guard position because he's so used to shoot. And now you want him to distribute. So if you're going to turn him into this, you're saying, hey, we want you as this. So you got to pay him as that. And if you don't, then if I'm Kevin Porter, I'm saying to myself, well, you know, there's a team that'll probably put me back at a natural position. There's a team that's only a shooting guard away from going to the next level. The Rockets are playing, they're playing a very dangerous game right now.
Yeah, they are.
They are. Go ahead, Coty.
And I was just going to add, you know, when you take a look at what happened to Christian Wood, and of course, we all asked about it, we all talked about it, and whatever the case might be, it was a lot more easier for the Rockets to move on from Christian Wood at the end of the day. Let's call it what it is. He didn't fit their plan long term. He was 28 years old, and he, as Sarge alluded to early on in the show, it turned into something he did not come to Houston for. With Kevin Porter Jr. is different because this is a guy who fits your rebuilding timeline. Plus, you also got to keep in mind, unless the CBA agreement change, I'm pretty sure in the next 5 to 6 years, we're going to look at this as a standpoint of, will Jalen Green sign a max extension to stay with the Houston Rockets, or will he join Zion and Ja Morant in Los Angeles to build the next super team? What are we going to do? Let's say if that happens, we're going to go back and say, hey, remember 4 years ago when the Rockets let Kevin Porter Jr. walk, and then Sarge going to be like, remember when I was on Chris Shaw and I said his progression, you know, was because of him playing alongside with Kevin Porter Jr. Yeah, you know you're going to say, and I'll be like, oh, Lord, here we go. I say all that just to say there's a lot more at stake if the Rockets don't try to sign him to some type of extension now, even if it's like a 2-year extension, whatever the case might be, it's in their best interest to do it now. Because if they wait, like Sarge just alluded to, Chris, you have seen this time and time again covering the NBA. It always 9 times out of 10 ends up biting the franchise back in the wrong spot. And next thing you know, in the next 5 to 6 years, we're going to be back in the same situation saying, the Rockets hit the reset on the rebuild, and you don't want this to be the start of something that could turn into something very promising.
KPJ should walk in and say, yes, today's prices ain't yesterday.
who is the Rockets' best point guard on the team?
KPJ. As of right now, KPJ.
Point guard?
Oh, yeah.
KPJ. I know a lot of people are going to say Tata Washington, but once again, ladies and gentlemen, we got to keep in mind, we saw it with Jalen Green, we saw it with Alperen Sengun, we saw it with Josh Christopher, hell, we saw it with Cade Cunningham. you have to give these rookies time to go through their learning process. Unless you like LeBron, then you ain't got no learning process if you him.
But he did too.
He did. Like everybody did in their own way. But even his learning was like that's another topic for another day. But I say all that just to say, it's going to take Ty Washington time to develop into the point guard he can be. And Kris, you might be able to agree with this statement, but I was surprised that Ty Washington was still on the board by the time the Rockets had an opportunity to make that selection and pick. Because wasn't he like a top 5 point guard at his position entering the draft? I thought for sure
during the season he got hurt.
After ankle injuries, he was the same player. So.
Okay, cool. And I'm glad you guys told me that because I was going to get into. I want to know why there were so many doubts surrounding Ty because me and Sarge had an opportunity to watch him in person in the summer league, and you saw when he was on the court, he brought a lot of ball movement to the Rockets. Now, granted, I get it in summer league, but there's still a great sample size that you can take from that. With all that being said, now he's expected to do it against the Russell Westbrooks, against the Ja Morant. You're dealing with a whole different type of monster, against the Kyrie Irving if he's playing. But it's going to be different from here. He's going to have to go through a major learning curve. And this is not a point guard that is walking into a situation where you have a lot of veterans and you have an opportunity to make these mistakes. No. You learning alongside Kevin Porter Jr., who is still learning and developing, alongside Smith, alongside Jalen Green. Like, it's going to take him time. But as of right now, going into the season, Kevin Porter Jr. is definitely their best point guard.
Sarge, who is out of Ty and Daisha Nix? Who do you think will be the point guard going forward for the Rockets?
Wait, going forward, you mean who's going to be the best backup, right? Because KPJ is the best.
Yes, today, the best backup. The best backup. Yes.
Today, tomorrow, he is the backup to me. The better backup is Ty Washington.
Okay. And
I say that because don't get me wrong, I like Daisha. I think that Daisha Nix is a very, very good player who finally, what we seen in summer league, like Cody alluded to, both of us was there. We seen Daisha start to play with more confidence. I don't know if he can transition that from summer league to the regular season, because one of the things that kept getting him put down in the G League was his conditioning and his confidence. Mm-hmm. And so if he doesn't have those two, if he can't keep those two up, he'll find himself back in the G League. Now, when it comes to Ty Washington, being a natural point guard is exactly what that second unit needs, because now you take Josh Christopher off the ball and let him play his natural position as shooting guard. You have a very smart and intelligent player in Ty Washington who knows that position. Daisha Nix doesn't really know how to play point guard. The problem is the Houston Rockets drafted a bunch of shooting guards that they wanted to convert, or they, went out and got a shooting guard that they wanted to convert. Now they actually drafted a natural point guard, someone who can, I'll put it like this. The one thing that I loved about when former Houston Rocket DJ Augustine was here, the one thing that I loved about DJ Augustine was when he came into the game and it was going all haywire, he was the one that got the ball and said, everybody settle down right now. Stop. Everybody just stop. We're going to run this play. I'm going to run this play. We're going to run this play to perfection. We're not going to just get the ball and be all willy-nilly. Everybody get it, isolate, go one-on-one. No. We actually have a play. When you have a natural point guard like that who knows how to command the offense, who knows how to slow down the offense, but can also, because Ty can also score as well. Right. He's one of those players who he'll score if he has to. He'll score when the opportunity presents itself. But his mindset is, I got to get everybody else involved, which is exactly what DJ Augustine, which is why DJ Augustine has been around the league for so long, because his mindset is in a natural point guard mindset, which is exactly what Ty Washington is. So I see him being the backup point guard for the Houston Rockets this season.
Can I add something to that?
At one point, Cody, but at one point, Sarge, how soon? Because I think he'll be in the G League to start the season.
They will probably put him in the G League at first to see what Dacian has. But they also have to put him there. They also put him down there because for as good as he is, he doesn't have that skill set that Jabari has and Tari has to stay at this level. But you put him down there, you let him get acclimated to running an NBA offense. You get him acclimated to running because of course in summer league, it's vanilla offenses. Hey man, this is what we're gonna do. Bam, 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 bam. Now in the regular season, you're running the things that you want. So he may be put down there long enough so Coach Silas can say, hey, look, we need Tata to know that these are the plays that we run, and then we'll bring him back, right? Kind of like what they did for Josh Christopher. Hey, go down here for a second, get yourself together, get acclimated. You are very talented. You're just raw right now, and we need you to get inside of this system. And what happened when they brought Josh back? Josh had a whole different mindset, and Josh will even admit he didn't want to go to the G League, but he's going to do whatever it takes for the team. Tata Washington has that same mindset. If I have to go to the G League first in order to come back and do what coach wants me to do, I'll do that hands down.
Cody, what are we going to say?
No, I was just going to add to the Deshaun Nix point that Sarge made, because I actually had an opportunity to speak to Nix prior to the summer league, and I came out and I just asked him, why is the reason why we see this shift? Because in the G League, he's averaging 25 and 10 assists and all this other stuff, but he gets to the Rockets, it's like a complete 180. And he told me not only is it a confidence issue that he's going through, but it's also like this equal balance that he's trying to find, because in the G League, he's the number 1, number 2 scoring option. With the Rockets, now he's being asked to distribute. So I think that's really going to come into whether or not he had an opportunity to find that equal balance this offseason, and that's going to ultimately determine who's going to be the backup to Kevin Porter Jr. and who's going to be in Rio Grande Valley. That's what they call it, right?
Yeah, Rio Grande, man. Don't. But just because you're from Texas, don't disrespect it.
We're about to wrap it up because I know you two guys got other stuff to do today. But real quick, appreciating Coty Davis and Big Sarge joining me here on Let's Talk Houston Rockets. Give me your, I won't say a timetable, but at some point in the season, last 5 minutes of basketball games, to close our games, to get dubs, who are your 5 Rockets on the floor to get those victories? Cody, you first.
Jabari Smith, Jayshawn Tate, Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green. I don't know who's going to be that last one, man. If I had to pick, just because he's still on the roster, Eric Gordon.
Wow. Okay.
That hat tight on your head.
You said what?
That hat is tight on your head because he got your brain just scrambled. So my five is easy. Point guard, Kevin Porter Jr. Shooting guard, Jalen Green. At the 3, Tari Eason. At the 4, Jabari Smith Jr. At the 5, Alperen Sengun.
Yeah, Cody, you didn't say LP.
You said to win games. The only reason why I didn't say LP over Smith, if it's crunch time to win games, is because Smith is he's probably arguably their best defensive player. I mean, I asked him during the summer league about defense. He said defense is his best defensive attribute.
Better than Tari.
Protecting the rim, yes. Protecting the rim, yes. Like on the perimeter, there's like what and what, but I give Tari the edge. But if it's a close game and you need someone back there to protect the basket, there's no way in the world Steven Silas do not have Smith into the game. And then, of course, when you take a look at perimeter defense, you also still got to keep in mind there's Jayshawn Tate, who is one of, if not the third best defensive player, wherever you want to put Tari. And then, like I say, because he's still on the roster, Eric Gordon. Like if it's crunch time, I don't see them not having Eric Gordon on the court.
Okay, well let me throw in this little addition to it. Second half of the season, last 5 minutes of basketball games, because I don't believe EG will be here second half of the season.
We've been saying that forever.
I think it finally gets done. This year.
It's gonna be a lot of initials that ain't gonna be here. But I will say this. I'm gonna let me just jump in real quick. I'm gonna keep my same 5, and for the reason And Coty, I want to add to what you were saying. Alp may not be the strongest defender on the court at the time, but what you do get is on that other end, you get another playmaker. Alp is nothing but a 6'11" point guard, to be honest with you. So now you put him at the top, and the way he sees and just let everybody else cut off of him, pass, get to the basket, because Alp is very good down in the post as well. So what you may lose a little bit on the defensive side of the ball, you gain on the offensive side of the ball, because now you bring him to the top, put the ball in his hands. Now Kevin can go and do what he needs to. Everybody else now becomes moving parts. And with Jabari Smith on the floor, who is one of the most underrated things that people aren't talking about when it comes to Jabari Smith Jr. is he's a very good shooter. He can shoot. And so you got him with a pick and pop, or just, hey, you stay right here, we're going to pass you the ball because we know you're going to hit the shot. And so that's why. But in second half of the season, last 5 minutes, when they're on game 36, oh, wow. Boy, you need to pay your cake.
What happened there, man?
You gotta leave it rising. But it looks better now because I should have been next to Kris in the first place. But
you should be on time then. You should have been on time.
It started at 12. I was here at 12. Hey, Kris, but that's why
on time means you're late, sir.
The second half, in that last 5 minutes, I'm going with that same unit because I feel like that's the strongest unit.
All right, 2 more questions, then we're done. Will Eric Gordon and KJ Martin be traded? And when?
Coty?
Sarge?
Look, yes.
I agree.
Look, that's all I got. Yes.
I'm going to say yes because I'm so sick and tired of having this conversation. This is like the 4th year in a row. Just trade the man. Let the man go.
Who, EG?
Yes.
I told you they're going to name the practice facility after him.
The Eric Gordon practice facility.
It seems like he's going to be here forever. You know,
you're going to walk into the practice facility, Kris, and you're going to be like, how in the hell did his number get retired?
And no disrespect. You know they trying to keep him when they signed his brother to the Summer League team. Now, look, Eric, we got your brother. I wonder if they're going to try to get him on the G League team next.
You know, let's see. No, they might.
Maybe they can sneak him on U of H.
He could be an assistant coach at U of H. All right, we're going to wrap it up, man. This was fun, as I knew it would be. Okay, Sarge, you first. How can folks find you on all those media platforms, brother?
You can find me at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end on Twitter and on Instagram. You can also find me at Sports Talk with Big Sarge on wherever you get your podcast from. And you can find me at Rockets Wire USA Today, all of my articles. My government name is Brian Barefield. So don't go there and say, we can't find the articles from Big Sarge. Yeah, because my government name is Big Sarge, which, by the way, maybe I should, because, like, what didn't Leon, the dude that was in the 5 Heartbeats, his name is just Leon, right?
Right. Yep, that's it.
I should legally change my name to Big Sarge. Coty, you'd be mad if you had to call me Big Sarge.
I call you that all the time.
I'm gonna put these 2 comments up. Coty, how can folks find?
Wait. One more thing.
Go ahead.
One more thing. And you can find me on Sports Talk 790 in the trenches from 10 to 12 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, hosted by former NFL player ND Kalu.
That was important. Thank you, sir, for putting that in. Yeah,
790 is the Rockets flagship station.
Yeah, I don't want them mad at me. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Coty, how about you, man? How can folks find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Coty Davis _24. Once again, that's Coty COTY DAVIS _24. You can find my Rockets Word, part of Sports Illustrated Fan Nation at Inside the Rockets. And for the other dysfunctional team in Houston, yes, I still think they're dysfunctional, the Houston Texans. You can find my work Locked On Texans and also TexansDaily.com. Beat reporter for both of those guys.
So we got a comment here from WK. Good job, fellas. Ray W says this was an elite stream, KG. And then Goyo says, y'all like this one. You should all stream together more often. It was great. So I'm putting that on y'all, okay, for us to get together, do this again. And then Justin Singleton, good conversation, fellas. I knew it would be. I have hinted at this a few times on my shows with the fans directly. how much fun we have together. And I finally got it together. So I'm glad we got it done. Okay, guys, take care. We'll see each other on Monday at Media Day, right?
Yes, sir. You know it.
And Cody, leave your Michael Jackson stuff at home. So, thank you for everybody for tuning in on the Houston Roundball Review. This is Let's Talk Houston Rockets show. Hit the like button, like the video, spread the word, because it'll be up for you to see and laugh at, make fun of us, comments, whatever. It's there for you guys as well. Appreciate it, fellas. See you on Monday. Take care. Peace.
I'm out.
Thanks, brother.